let me just ask you this. So Deion Sanders has his debut this weekend against TCU. What happens if Colorado goes out there
and gets throttled?
Just gets their ass whooped. Then what is the conversation and what is the spin from Deion Sanders about the Colorado program?
I don't know, only because he's been pretty adamant, and especially this week, he didn't just say they're going to win, they're going to dominate, was the words that he used. And it's interesting. Like, this week will be a much better indication of if they can dominate, right? TCU was a team that played in the national championship last year. Granted, different quarterback now, although the quarterback they're starting, for people who don't know this, he actually was the starter last season. He got hurt. So Max Duggan, who took over for him, ended up having this Cinderella year and became a Heisman runner-up. So it's kind of crazy when you think about that. And they lost Quentin Johnson to the NFL, Darius Davis to the NFL, amongst other players too. But TCU is reloaded. I mean, they took JoJo Earl, Trey Sanders, Brockmeyer, the tackle out of Alabama. I mean, 3 Bama players go from Tuscaloosa to Fort Worth. I mean, when's that ever happen? They've got a number of talented receivers they brought in that are super, super fast. So they're set up to win. It's whether or not Chandler Morris can recreate what Max Duggan provided at quarterback, which was just at times heart and soul. But they should be deeper. They should be the better team. They're a 3-touchdown almost favorite. But as I said before, man, Shedeur Sanders gives them a chance to win. He's super, super talented. He's accurate. He can move around and create plays. He's got a big enough arm. He's smart with the football. Like, he's going to give them a shot. Travis Hunter's a playmaker. They've got some other speed, talented guys on the outside. And football's a game of momentum, especially at the college level. And if Colorado finds a way of jumping out early, look out. Like they can continue to ride that wave. And look, if it doesn't work out, so be it. They're going to be taking on a team next week in Nebraska at home that's closer to what they are, which is a team that has 80-some new players from a year ago. Nebraska's got like 64, I think, new players from a year ago. So that's more of a level playing field, I think, as far as evaluation. But I don't know, man. I'm not betting against Prime. I know that much.
I'm going to tell you what I was thinking. And only because I love Prime. And I love him as my teammate. I don't just love him as a fan. I mean, I loved him growing up as a fan, but I had the pleasure and the honor to play with Prime in Washington and coach with him for many, many years in the Under Armour All-American game. So we formed a bond on different levels at different times in our lives. I was thinking about it because at some point in time, when somebody's your teammate and you've had moments where there were critical moments, like I was struggling, I was out of shape my rookie year, and Prime was the one who took me under his wing and was staying with me after practices and forcing me to do extra conditioning and different things, and was talking me through practices because I was getting almost like small panic attacks, like anxiety type deals where I couldn't breathe and all kinds of stuff. And anyway, he was there for me and he protected me in that moment. And it's like you start to look at the landscape and how this can kind of unfold, and I started thinking to myself, man, it started with me thinking the concern part was when he wasn't able to go to the media day because he had to go get the procedure. Now, there's two major things that I'll say I felt like have been at play. One is the tremendous amount of content that Prime and branding Prime has been doing on social media. So he lets you into his life. He gives you so many quotes. He gives you so much content. He takes you behind the scenes. He shows you what's going on. And I'm like, yeah, I love this. He's bringing attention to Colorado. They sold out the spring game. They're selling out tickets for regular season games. And then I was like, but his health is also a very, very big part of what what is going on and what you're seeing. And I started thinking to myself, if he loses and he loses early, there's going to be the contingency of people that say, we knew they were going to struggle. We knew they were going to lose. Like, Feinbaum. Is that how you say it? Feinbaum, I want to say.
Paul Feinbaum, yeah.
Yeah, he's like basically like they'll be a non-story by week 3, and that's how college football works. And, he's right. If a team is losing and they're losing and week 3 comes around, you're paying attention to who's winning, not to who's losing. But then it starts to come to me, people will start to attack the fact that Prime may not be physically healthy enough to lead this team. It's like you're limping into and not to sound like pun intended or not intended, but your team is limping into the season. Your team is limping through the first part of the season. It's like what looks like a great story and perseverance and making it through and just the idea of being tough as hell. Like Prime is tough as hell. He ain't got no toes, a few missing toes, and he's still out here coaching and he's coming out of the hospital.
What are you saying?
I almost
exactly
feel
are you saying? Like they're going to blame it on his health if it doesn't work?
I think people will attack Prime for overselling himself. I think they will attack Prime and say that his health is a problem or something that now you're looking at and it's not a story of.
I don't care what people say.
Well, I think it'll be reported that way. I think that'll become the narrative.
Be reported. I think it would be reported just like, hey, look, this is a team in transition. 4 wins is a dramatic improvement from 1 win last year. But I think it's going to be more interesting what he says because he's been so emboldened to say not just winning but dominating and everything that he said at this point.
He'll hold the line. Prime will hold the line. You know what I mean?
Well, what I think he's done that's really fascinating is he has made all these drastic changes. If you look at the logo, it doesn't say Colorado on his sweatshirt.
It says Prime. Yeah.
And so in making it about himself in different ways, it's actually taken some of the focus and pressure off the players, which is kind of interesting. Like if you look at it in that light, it's taken away the pressure, the attention, everything else. It allows the players just to focus. Right? Like he takes all the heat. He takes all of it.
I like that point. I like that point, but I don't know that it will be perceived that way if they're getting their asses kicked.
I think it was.
Well, it's not whether it's perceived. It doesn't matter if it's perceived or not. It's a separate conversation. Like you're talking about one thing. I'm talking about he's done something that I think is unique with the way he's constructed his roster. No one else but Deion Sanders could do this.
True.
I mean, any other coach that tried to do this, people within the actual university would be like, "What the hell are we doing?" There's no way. But he's the only one that could essentially say, like, "Hey, you need to change these academic standards if I'm going to come here." Boom, done. I'm going to turn over this roster. So get ready. These are the resources that I need in order to bring in the players that I know. Right? Dylan Edwards, a running back. He's known since he's 4 years old. There's so many different things that he was able to do that only he could do because he is that big of a person and that big of a brand. And I think it's kind of fascinating to whatever happens on the field happens. He knows he's going to have to answer for it because he's been in that position as a player, now as a coach. So it's just the whole thing's pretty interesting.
I think it's a 2-pronged battle, and he's already won the first part. We're talking about him. When's the last time we talked about Colorado like this? I mean, other than when there's some issue, but they're on the map again because of him. I mean, you saw the spring game. You see, we talked about what next week is going to look like when they open up the home opener against Nebraska. Big noon kickoffs going to Colorado for a reason because of him. So he won that battle. The wins on the field, if we ever get there, are going to take time. I mean, to Brady's point, they won 1 game last year. He's talking about them beating TCU. They're almost 21-point underdogs on the road here to open up the season. I think the fact that they're even on the map and he's sort of thrown himself out in front of the bus saying, I'll be the face of all this and take all the heat. I think they've already won that portion of it.
Yeah,
so
I don't know. I understand where you guys are coming from, and I get it, but I do think that there's a debate there on the perception of it. I mean, you're going to sell recruits, you're going to sell hope on perception, and if you're losing, then that persona, that perception, that what Prime represents, what he's saying, what he's preaching, now that's going to be attacked by the media. And does that impact his ability to be able to continue to sell that dream or not? And I think that's a major part for any coach, is being able to sell where you're going to go play.
I don't know. I think it's all over the board what you're trying to say, because there's recruiting elements, there's the perception, the media. Look, clearly there's people who are hiding in the media that are waiting for this not to work. Yeah. There are. There's going to be people out here who are waiting for that. Then you've got, that faction of people who I think are curious if it will work, right? Because they're probably thinking well, dang, if CU can do this, then imagine the roster turnover that another school could do if they really wanted to, right? And so there's all these different thoughts to all of it. But as far as if things don't work, how he'll be perceived, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, because I feel like if you're a parent, you're a player, and you're choosing Colorado, most of these players that chose to go play for Prime want to go play for Prime. They want that experience. They want to go play for a Hall of Fame or one of the greatest athletes we've ever seen.
Would you rather want that? Would you rather want that after losing, or would you want to try to play for a national title or go to a place where you feel like you're in contention to win a national title?
But that's what I'm trying to explain is if Prime, sure, that's you. If Prime is the main reason and driver, right, why you want to go, if you're a DB, if you're whoever it is, wide receiver, you want to be coached by him, you want to say that was my guy. Yeah, that's going to trump all of that. Because you're in your mind going to think, well, yeah, maybe we eventually build to that at the end of my time there. But to me, it's all about Deion. That's the whole point of all of this conversation is he's made it all about himself.
That could become an undoing. I think what you're saying is what makes the point of how it could become an undoing.
The undoing happens if he leaves. If he jumps, if this works and he leaves, that's when there's an undoing. Because then it's well, if you made it all about yourself, what foundation did you really create there? That's the only thing I'm curious is if it is successful and he does jump to either another school or if it was the NFL, then it's well, then now what? Where does that leave CU?
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see where they're at the end of his first year.